How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC, and today we are doing a review on Nitro V blade steel. We're also doing a review on this particular model, the Otter. This is a collab by myself and Levi at Northern Knife Works, but I do have a couple of Nitro V knives here that I've been testing because I've really noticed a huge difference between Nitro V at 63.5 HRC and Nitro V at 60 to 61 HRC. This one's right in the middle at 62, so we're going to talk about some differences with these in terms of performance, and we're also going to do a little bit of testing while we're talking. I just gave myself a huge splinter. We're going to do some batoning and feather sticking with this, so I'm going to clear these away, and we're going to start by using the Otter. Then we're going to use these two as well because I have some stuff I want to share about them. I'm going to be out of frame for a moment to baton this, but I will come down into frame. But the Otter just smashes through everything. It's a very fun knife. Really large too. This is a great beater, but we're going to break these down, and then as we feather stick, we're going to talk about some really interesting performance differences between the HRC. We'll break down this last one too. Perfect. Okay, so this is Nitro V at 63.5 HRC. We've got 20 thou BTE on this, and this thing is a ripper. This has honestly really good edge retention compared to some other Nitro V that I've used. Nitro V, from my experience, tends to glass out pretty quick when you run it a little softer at like 60, 61. I feel like it has to be above 62, otherwise it gets real glassy. So I've actually been able to do this, run my finger over the edge like this since it arrived. I have a video of when I hadn't even used it yet, and I've been able to do this the entire time because it's got a glassy edge. I believe it's because it's soft. But I can't really do that same thing with this. Like, this has much more bite to it, and it's definitely due to the higher HRC on this one. So basically, Nitro V is extremely similar in composition to AEBL, and it's pretty similar to 14C28N as well. Performance-wise, what it also reminds me of is LC200N. They all kind of feel pretty similar to me. I do not know if LC200N has a similar makeup to the rest of those. I don't think it does, but I do know that Nitro V has a really similar composition to AEBL. I believe it just has added nitrogen and vanadium. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's a good steel. It's stainless, or as stainless as you would think. A lot of steels are more, like, I would say, stain resistant or rust resistant, not full-blown stainless. You can take MagnaCut, put it in salt water for a few hours, and MagnaCut will rust. It's more like there are levels of stainlessness, and there are very few steels that are truly absolutely stainless. But this is a very stainless type steel. And like I said, really comparable to those other steels that we talked about. This is clearly not a good feather stick. Let me pick a different one. It reminds me a lot of LC200N, like I said. But basically, it has really good toughness, and the edge retention for what it has is pretty decent. It has a really fine microstructure, but the toughness is pretty impressive with this, and that is why we chose it for a camp knife. The issue that I've had in the past with Nitro V is that it is tough as nails. It's really, really tough, but that front end sharpness, that you get out of the box typically, or if you're used to steels like, you know, 15V or 10V or K390, if you're used to that, like, just piercing front end sharpness lasting a long time, you do not get that with Nitro V, generally speaking. It glasses out like S45 VN pretty quickly from my experience. Now, you can absolutely play with geometry and get the knife to still cut and work even when it's dull, which I'm going to show you right now, but I'm not a big fan of steels that glass out. So based off of my knowledge and have been using knives like this that are 60 to 61 HRC and having them glass out, we decided that we wanted to run the Otter at 63.5, you know, 63, 64, and just beef up the geometry to add some toughness as opposed to run it soft. Because what happens is, if you run it at, you know, 60, 61, you get this glassy edge. Now, I will say this knife still performs because it's got extremely thin geometry. Really, really thin. So this knife is actually still, it still works. I can still feather with it. I can still use it, as you can see. But with certain tasks like cutting cardboard, cutting rope, it's completely glassed out, and it has been since it arrived. It just has always been like this. I do have a video literally of the first day I got it, and I've been able to run my finger over the edge the entire time because it's soft. So if you run soft Nitro V, you want to at least run geometry like this. That way it'll actually still perform. Otherwise, the knife is kind of useless, essentially. It definitely loses that sharpness very quickly if it even has it in the first place. So this knife, luckily, is super thin. It's only 10 thou BTE. So this little wicket here, even though it is glassed out, it absolutely still curls because it has a very thin BTE. But we didn't really want to have this type of situation. This isn't ideal because if you're not using this for wood, if you're using this for cardboard and rope, that lack of sharpness can really hinder your use. So we didn't want this type of situation. Now, this knife here is a trapper from Goat Head Knives. This is at 62 HRC. And now this is where I was really starting to get impressed and where I was starting to think, okay, we're on to something. Nitro V at 62 and higher, that's when you start to get that much better edge retention and that it's a little more toothy. You're not losing any toughness. You can bring Nitro V all the way up to 64 HRC and not really lose any toughness. So when I started using this one, this is where I was like, okay, this is more the direction I want to go in. Todd from Goat Head Knives makes incredible stuff. This is a cryo-done Nitro V knife at 62 HRC, like I said. And I've noticed that with this, this is not made for feather sticking at all. This is a hunting knife. It's a trapper. But in use, I noticed that I could, you know, still do a good amount of feather sticking, still do a good amount of work, and it still is much more sharp than the like lower HRC Nitro V that I've used. So this one I've used a good amount and it just still shreds, and this is not even made for this stuff. Like, this is literally a trapper. But as you can see, this thing just eats. Like, I was purposely digging in here and it just still absolutely eats. So I experienced this and I was like, okay, that's definitely the direction I want to head in with a camp knife. So with the Otter, this is where geometry rules really comes into play, because we wanted a beefy, really thick stock camp knife that you could absolutely just beat on. We picked Nitro V because it's stainless and has very good toughness, and it's extremely quick and easy to sharpen. And it's also cheap in the grand scheme of things. If you had this knife in Magna Cut, it would not be $275. But because this is a Nitro V, we can offer it for $275. Sorry, I'm getting covered in ants again. $275 plus shipping. And it's actually pretty similar in like corrosion resistance and toughness and just overall use. It's actually pretty similar from my experience to MagnaCut. MagnaCut has way better edge retention for sure, but all of the other properties are pretty darn similar, I've noticed. So we took this knife and we really took into consideration like the jack of all trades, master of none type deal. What can we do to this to make it as stainless as possible, as tough as possible, and still hold a better edge than the softer stuff? So what we did was we took it to 63.5 HRC and we brought it down to 20 thou BTE. We're gonna have, 20 to 25 thou BTE. That way you still get that good toughness. But that high hardness is really providing this knife, even after you beat on it, to have really good front end sharpness compared to what you're used to from Nitro V. This thing is still crazy toothy, and I have really been using this. Hopefully the camera will actually show. I have really been using this knife a lot during the testing. The tooth of this edge is still lasting after all of the stuff I've done with it, and it's really that heat treat, that high hardness. So because Nitro V already has really good toughness, we were able to bring that heat treat up, play around with geometry, and we kind of have the perfect mix here of everything that you want in a camp knife. Now, Levi did take his prototype Otter and literally on camera chopped a brick in half. He used like a rubber mallet, his Otter, and just plowed through a brick. It had very minimal edge damage, and he was able to bring it back to razor sharp slicing through receipt paper within 5 minutes. So Nitro V is one of those steels where there is simply zero reason to run it soft. There's no reason. Like 64 is what you want to aim for. 63 to 64, you're not really compromising anything. I also ran a pretty intense corrosion test on this knife as well. Basically what I did was used it for like a couple hours, then I put water on it and I put it back in the Kydex sheath that it comes with. Put it back in the Kydex and left it. And I'm gonna come around behind the camera so that I can make sure that I have this in frame. The rusting that has occurred on this is really minuscule compared to what I thought it would be. So let me just get up and make sure I can show you guys properly here. So I put water on this and some other like juices basically, and as you can see, we have really, really minimal rusting. And I have not even wiped this off. I haven't wiped this off once because I wanted to really show the true use of this. So just very, very minuscule surface rust. I actually think I can, clean a lot of this off. And a lot of it is like dirt too. But I just wanted to leave all of the use on it so I could kind of show you guys. So you are not, bringing it up to this higher hardness. You're still not compromising that corrosion resistance and stainlessness of Nitro V. That's very minuscule right there. So on the production ones, we are going to run, a little closer to 25 thou BTE just to really make sure you guys can beat on these. They're still going to be 63 to 64 for hardness because we want them to be nice and hard, hold a good edge, and the DPS will be 24.5 exactly on them because through the testing we figured out that that was the most ideal spot for the DPS for edge retention and edge stability. But Nitro V is honestly so fun to use, And it's just a completely different world. Like, I haven't sharpened this yet, and I can't run my finger, the soft part of my finger, I cannot run it on the edge like the other knife. Even after all this use, I just can't, because it would slice my finger. Very, very different. Very different compared to, 60 to 61. And that's not throwing shade at anybody's work or anything. It's just, this is so much different. And you're not compromising anything. And that's why it reminds me of Magna Cut, because it's, again, one of those steels you can bring up to high hardness. You're not compromising anything. You're not losing anything. And you gain edge retention. You gain, well, mostly edge retention on Magna Cut. But on Nitro V, you're just not, like, losing anything, bringing it up to that high hardness. So this knife is just an absolute blast to use, guys. These are going to be available July 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. $275 plus shipping. But I'm really stoked because Nitro V is just one of those steels that I have always said is, like, good but not great, because I've always experienced kind of the softer, glassier stuff. And this is just completely different. I'm gonna go sit back down so I can finish this video for you guys. So yeah, very, very fun to use, super easy to sharpen. Like I said, Levi on his end brought his edge back within 5 minutes after chopping a brick in half with his. Really easy to sharpen. Definitely one of those steels where, if you use diamonds, your sharpening experience is going to be much faster, but you can also use other stones as well. You're not obligated to use diamonds like, with some of the higher end steels. But it's a really good all-around steel. And it's a little bit cheaper. It's really stainless, stain resistant. Stays sharp for a decent amount of time if you bring it up to this high hardness. So I'm just really stoked about these. It's really nice to finally have a good experience with a steel that you haven't exactly been the biggest fan of in the past. Really fun. This is just a blast to use. There's nothing that it hasn't really been able to do yet, and I've been just testing the crap out of it. Just a lot of fun. And this is absolutely meant to beat on, guys. This is one of those knives that we want you to take out in the woods, take out in the backyard, and just, have fun with it. Like, baton with it. I'm not necessarily recommending that you chop a brick in half like Levi did, but like reasonable actual tasks. Oh, that just broke that right off. That you would do at camp. That's what we want you guys to do. We want you to be able to baton with this. We want you to be able to feather stick, do some camp cooking, just play around with it, The rock texturing is super grippy, really comfortable in hand. Got some really nice jimping up there. Just all around a really fun knife to use, and it's not going to burn a huge hole in your pocket, because $275, plus give or take 15 or 20 bucks for shipping, probably 15. So, 290 bucks, maybe 295. Under 300 for an absolute beater of a camp knife that has Nitro V that you probably haven't experienced before, and definitely not from like a production company. So I really hope that these will be fun for you guys to play around with and bring on your camp trips and do bonfires in the backyard. I'm really excited about this one, guys, and I'm really excited to offer it to you. So that's a little bit of, use and kind of an overview / review of the Otter, Nitro V in general. Thank you, Levi, for making this. Todd, thank you for your awesome knives as well. Goathead Knives, check him out. And I I did buy this one with my own money. These two were given to me, but I did buy the Wicket with my own money. I would love to see this a little harder. You know, the maker may have his own reasons for running it softer. I would love to see this, you know, 62, sitting at 62. But this is a really fun little knife to use in general. I do like that the geometry is super thin, so even though it is dull, I can still... Man, I got all kinds of critters around here. I can still use this even though it's dull, so it'll still... Let me see if I can get a good corner here. It'll still curl, and I can actually baton with this. I have batoned with this knife a number of times, even though it's so tiny and so thin. You absolutely can with this one. So I don't know. Let's see. Let's plow this through some wood real quick. I don't recommend you do this. This thing is tiny and not meant for this at all. But you can take this little tiny Wicket and baton with it. I don't know if I can break that or not with the knife. It's just so thin. But yeah, if you want to split this stuff down real small, you can surely use this little blade for it. No worries. These are all really fun knives, guys. They're all a pleasure to use. They're all a lot of fun, so check out all the makers. I really hope that you guys get on this Otter drop. This one's a really fun one, so I will see you guys on the next video. I hope that you enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I'll see you guys so soon. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives. I will see you on the next video. Love you so much, fam. Take care.